roll.
Well, hello there. You're listening to the OffBeat Business Show. This is Susan Hamilton. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable lunch hour with us. We are talking about fathers in business all through June, and really excited about being able to reach out to you, small business, because we represent you with business-to-business resources that make a difference, reframing that completely to help you understand that you are B4B today in 2016. We represent the 80% of American small business that tend to be family-owned businesses of 9 employees or less. That means we're building our businesses while we're raising our kids. We're taking care of our parents. Yeesh, if you're not busy enough, you probably have a veteran in your family or your workspace that's either bringing that discipline and that skill and A game, or possibly struggling with reentry after deployment. And 30% of us are struggling with an addict in our family or our workspace. So when we come to you, we're coming with stuff that you absolutely need that you can use immediately. And that's why I'm real excited to share with you Jeff Crilley. Hey, Jeff, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Jeff's got a if you're not from this area, you may not know just how pervasive the Crilley name is around here, because he's been a Fox 4 reporter for how long were you doing that?
I was at Channel 4 for 15 years. 15
years, yes. You became very, very familiar, very friendly, and then has gone on now to help business owners get their information on the news and get that information out there with this incredible PR company. And tell us about the real news, Mr. Crilley.
So I was a TV reporter for 25 years, the last 15 at Channel 4, and PR people would pitch me news stories, but I always got the feeling that they weren't really watching the news, or they were trying to sell me a commercial. And so I wrote a book in 2002 called Free Publicity, A TV Reporter Shares the Secrets for Getting Covered on the News. That's the book.
Is this the book right here? Where can they find that book?
Amazon.
Good.
Yeah, so I started giving speeches while I was still at Channel 4, and I would sell the book at the back of the room for $10, and I ended up selling 70,000 copies of the book out of the trunk of my car, and a business was born. Because people, I thought the ideas were important when I wrote the book, but then people started coming up to me afterwards saying, man, I used your book, and I was just on Channel 8 last night. I was the lead story. It works just like you said.
Great.
And I became convicted, and that's what all entrepreneurs need. They need to believe in something so, with so much passion that they can run through a wall. And so it got to the point, I was 45 years old. It was 2008. I knew I wasn't going to get any younger, and if I had a second act, if I had another business in me, I better get going. So I got permission from my wife to quit in May of 2008, and in June of 2008 the housing bubble burst and we went into the Great Recession, which could have been really difficult for an entrepreneur, but I had 70,000 books out there declaring me the expert on public relations. So
it's so important. I'm really glad you mentioned that, because we have to create our own celebrity. We really do have to take authority of our authority in this marketplace and take that share and step up in it. And a book is a beautiful way to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. So I started in my bedroom in 2008, no overhead. A phone, a laptop was my overhead, and I had 10 clients. And I worked really, really hard, and then pretty soon I had 20 clients. And it was more than one guy could do, so I hired somebody else and hired somebody else, and now I've got 15 employees and 50 clients, and life is good.
That's wonderful. So are you excited about that, friends? Because if somebody's been telling you can't take your business to market, if you feel like you haven't quite done what you need to do, just realize that passion and drive will do a lot of things. Passion, drive, and a phone, right? We can get some things done.
Absolutely.
So you were telling me that, did you say your children work with you?
So
we can't call them children, can we? I still do too. Mine are 28 to 21, and I still do it, so I don't mean disrespectfully, but our kids, right?
So my daughter works with me. She's 26, and she's the managing director of the company.
Nice.
So she helps things work when I'm not in the office. And it's wonderful as a father. I know this is kind of June, Father's Day month.
Yes.
And we, as parents, we all hope that you've done a good job raising your kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then when your kids do something that makes people happy and amazes people, and then the word comes back, man, I love your daughter. Your daughter is amazing. And
nice.
yeah, so I couldn't be more proud.
Yay. So managing director, you said of what?
Of Realness PR. So she
Oh,
was,
of the whole thing.
of the
Oh,
whole
so
thing.
you've got, yes, that's the way to do it. Lead those leaders.
Absolutely.
They need it. They need it. This, we were talking. Several of the shows this month are really talking about that space and the generation. Are you noticing any generation gap in your business now between what you know? There was a time when there was such a dedication to excellence,
Yes.
and there doesn't seem to, it's not the same level. It's not necessarily wrong. A lot of them think differently, more out of the box, and I wish we would be more flexible to take on some of their ideas faster, actually.
Right.
But there is a big difference in the way the work ethic of the younger generation and the older. Do you experience any of that?
I do, but you have to find the right ones. So I've gone through a lot of employees, and we've got the right people on the right bus in the right seat. And my experience has been that the millennials really want a voice in the workplace, and in order for them to be happy and not job hop, because the average time spent on a job these days is about 2 years for a millennial,
Okay.
is to create what my friend calls a company of owners. So they're not employees, they're taking ownership of their job, they have a voice in the direction of the company, and they all see the bigger vision. And the bigger vision for my employees is, let's make a difference. People come to us to help them tell their story, and I think that's a privilege.
Oh yeah.
I always felt like when I was a news reporter, they were trusting me to, here's my baby, please take care of my baby. And now that I've got a for-profit company, nothing's changed. It's still their baby, and I feel a lot of pressure to tell the story the way it needs to be told. And that's another defining difference of our PR firm, is that we're not like an advertising company that repackages you and turns you into Tropicana orange juice. Television news did not allow us to stage, and so my job was a producer. I would hear your story, and then I would retell it to the viewers, and that's essentially what we're doing. Everybody who comes into our office is trusting us with their baby. Please take care of her or him, and help it grow. And I feel a tremendous pressure to guide that child and help it get on its feet. And
That's exciting. That's
Yeah.
exciting, and it's absolutely true, because one of the I see that the fear it comes in such insidious little ways in our business. I mean, and one of the reasons that we do the video just on our iPad Air, that's all this is, iPad Air, for this particular show, and we've got there's a fear about what do I say on audio or video that I can't take it away. Is not, and there's a fear about PR in the same way. Once it's out there, how do we get it? What if it's wrong, or what if I've offended somebody? That's the biggest one, isn't it? What if I offend somebody? What if now I've angered somebody, and now I've caused this tirade? That's now that social media can happen, because we are cruel. We are cruel creatures on social media, and people are afraid of that, and I just don't want them afraid. I want them excited about that. So I'm really glad that that's your approach for business owners. They need to know they've got somebody on their side and on their back. And largely, there's a lot of confusion. You mentioned advertising, and advertising, marketing, sales, PR. That is a big, confusing ball of yarn to a lot of people, not really knowing what those boundaries are. Help us understand. We're just going to assume that you don't, just because this is good for you to hear. Okay.
Okay. So everything we do at my PR firm is what I call attraction marketing. It's the opposite of sales. If this is a marketing umbrella and this is paid advertising, everything we're doing is over here. I'm not going to sell you. It's the opposite of sales. I'm going to stand in front of you as a thought leader. You may see me on one of the local news stations, or see me quoted in the paper. I may come to your Rotary Club as a speaker. The social media that we do for our clients is all in the space of becoming a thought leader. I think, especially the millennials, they've taught us that they hate sales. Millennials hate sales. They really want to know who you are before they're going to buy from you. And so it's taught us that just don't try to sell people on the product. offer education,
Mhm.
and they'll come along. Like my daughter is 26. She's much more likely to buy something based on a recommendation from a friend on Facebook than
That's
anything
true.
Abercrombie
Yeah.
can create in an ad. So I think this next generation of customers are very skeptical, and they can smell a sales pitch from a mile away.
So that being, the follow-up naturally to me on that question is, if she's on Facebook buying from a friend, how do you think Facebook ads then are, in your opinion, do you think that's a wise approach, or do you think that's one more way we're just selling?
Facebook ads can work. I think they have to be written differently than our grandparents would have been marketed to. I think if you look at kind of the early days of marketing, you had a snake oil salesman roll up into a town and take out this bottle and tell people that this cured everything from cancer to this to that. And now it's 2016, and you can't sell that way anymore. You have to educate people. You have to talk about your value proposition. Nobody wants a salesperson. I tell people on social media, it's no different than a cocktail party. At a cocktail party, a physical cocktail party, there are two people who have no audience at all. The insurance salesman who's trying to sell the whole room, and the bragger, the person who's talking about all their awards. And that describes a lot of social media today.
Interesting.
If you look at the way some people use social media, they're either bragging about something that they did, or they're trying to sell you their product. And I think that's off-putting. And so we encourage our clients, if you're a thought leader in your space, educate, provide articles that might be interesting to your fan base. That's the way to grow a following.
It really is, and we believe that 100%. That everything needs to be, they need to know you, but know what you stand for. There's no other way to build a relationship, and that's really what's going on today. So, and I hear mixed reviews. I always ask what people think about their Facebook ads and their social media ads and because that's an ever-evolving space as well.
Right.
So if you're enjoying this conversation, I certainly hope you are enjoying it as much as I am. We're going to take a break, and you're going to hear from some of our sponsors. And when we get back, we'll continue talking with Jeff Crilley and learn a little bit more about what we need to do a better job to get our message out into in front of the people that need it.
Sounded good.
That's awesome. You're a good
Yeah,
interviewer.
thank you. No, you.
So, had you ever done broadcast before?
No.
No?
This is just fun, and I enjoy it. Watch people like you. Y'all show me what to do. Anyway, is there anything in here you'd like me to talk about? Anything in particular we'd like to point out?
The chapter on becoming the expert is pretty interesting.
Okay.
The chapter on the feeding frenzy is pretty interesting. Slow news days. How do you time your story so that you get better coverage?
That would be really cool. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Check this out. He's going to spill his guts. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I noticed yesterday in the evening news it was really slow news day.
Yeah, you can always tell.
So there's a section, it's Showtime, Slow News Day. Is it called Slow News Day?
I think it's the second chapter.
Must be a slow news day.
We do half-hour news at BAP, and sometimes I hear the news guy say, "There's nothing to report. I'm waiting for the race to finish."
That's funny.
Listo?
Uh-huh.
All right.
And we're back. You're listening to the OffBeat Business Show. This is Susan Hamilton, and I'm talking with Jeff Crilley, and we're talking about real news, and we're talking about PR, because largely we get confused about advertising, marketing, sales, PR, and what does it all mean? Well, PR is going to get you what you need in front of the news. Help us understand this in the lingo that you're used to using.
I called my company Real News PR because it was a message to the journalist. I think journalists are kind of skeptical of PR people because usually they're trying to sell them something that they don't really need. So I said, what if we only took clients that had a good story to tell, and we only picked up the phone and called the journalist when we were confident that it would be something that they want? How would that look? And it's worked well, because there's not a journalist in local news that I can't get a return phone call from.
That's wonderful.
And that's because I've never abused the friendship. I've never abused the relationship. And they know that if I'm calling, it's going to be a good story.
That's good, because as you're talking about, we need to give a little plug here to free publicity, which you can find on Amazon. And by the way, you'll find this link on Jeff's podcast page when after the show airs, and you'll be able to get this for yourself. But you've got a section here talking about a slow news day. And we do want to know when is the best time to get our message out there. We don't know. We have no idea how to invade the space and do it well. And like you said, not annoy the person. Because, we do know that's a risk.
So when I was sitting down to write that chapter, I thought to myself, it's funny. Every time I'm coming up on a government holiday or leaving a government holiday, the news disappears. Why is that? Well, it's because half of all news comes from the government. So we're coming up on...
Does that surprise you, friends? Does that surprise you? Not a bit.
so think about this for a second. 4th of July would be, I guess, the next major holiday.
Okay.
And as you look at July 4th, I don't have my calendar in front of me, but you could circle days leading up to July 4th and days coming out of July 4th in which it will be predictably slow. Why? Because all the newsmakers, the normal newsmakers, go away. No school stories, obviously, they're out for the summer. No city hall stories. City councils don't really do much of significance around a government holiday because they're trying to get out of town, go to the lake. No county stories, no state stories, no federal stories. Even Washington will shut down around the 4th of July.
Okay.
Well, the local news still has to put out the same amount of news. I joked that when was the last time you tuned into Fox 4 and heard Clarice Tinsley say the words, "Sorry folks, nothing happened. Here's
right.
So the newscasters have to put out the same amount of news, year in, year out. But around those government holidays, the normal newsmakers kind of disappear. So I tell small business owners, if you have a story that you think is newsworthy, you're much better off putting it out around a large government holiday when you're not competing against large corporations and large governments.
Yes. That's wonderful. So how early then around those days does news need to get out? Do we need to make sure that a purchase is being made, or do we just completely trust you? Because this is your wheelhouse. So if we've got things that we want to get out, it's important for us to develop a relationship with a PR firm.
No, not
that
necessarily. When I wrote the book, it's a how-to book. It's
Okay.
you can do it yourself. You don't need a PR firm. And
Okay.
I remember when I was leaving TV news to start a PR firm, some of the PR people in Dallas said, "Well, he's been going around for 6-7 years telling people they don't need PR people. What's he going to say now?" And I just said, my message doesn't change. You don't need a PR firm. You just need to watch the news or pay attention to the news so that if you did make a phone call to the Dallas Morning News or 4, 5, 8, and 11, that you're calling a journalist that cares about the story that you're about to tell them. So if you have a feature story, it's different than pitching the person who does the murder stories. So if you're paying attention to the local news, you'll start to say, Sean Rabb just did a really nice, uplifting feature story. I have an uplifting feature story. I'm going to remember to call Sean Rabb for this. And I'm a big fan of the phone. I love the telephone because you can learn so much about how the pitch is going by talking to a reporter on the phone.
Huh. Do you recommend talking
Absolutely.
instead of
emails? Well,
Okay,
the
wonderful.
emails have become very ineffective.
I think so too.
When I was at Channel 4, we were getting about 2,500 press releases a day, and now they're getting 3,500 a day. Well, nobody's reading those press releases. So in order to actually get something covered, you got to go old school. I say this, get away from high tech, that's the computer, go back to high touch. This is a reporter who needs stories being sold by somebody who has a good story. And what happens on the phone is just absolutely magical. I'm selling them something, they're either saying I'm buying or they're saying I'm not buying and here's why. It gives me other opportunities to restate my case in a different way to get news coverage. So anytime anything is important for me, I will use the telephone. I do have a good relationship with journalists, and I can email them and get coverage. Sometimes I can text them and get coverage. But I just feel like if it's important and the client's paying me money to make this happen, I want a high probability shot that this ball is going to go in the basket. I don't want to just throw it up and hope and pray, because the client is depending on you. That's why I came up with this idea when I started the firm. Why don't we guarantee coverage? You shouldn't be able to guarantee coverage, but if you're doing your job right as a PR person, and you're only bringing in clients with good stories, you should stand behind your work. And so
I love that attitude.
I just vet the client.
It's a very
first.
cool interview.
Thanks. Well, if a client comes to me and I look at them and I'm like, I have no earthly idea how I'm ever going to get you on the news, I won't take the business, because if I'm not going to have success with them, why are we wasting each other's time?
Good. Oh, that's fantastic. So many questions. Tell me this: are you specifically television?
Nope. Print, radio, industry magazines. So what we do is we sit down with the client, we look at what their goals are. Some clients are all about ROI. If I'm going to be paying you X, I better have a multiple of X walking back in the door. Well, that's a different set of strategies than the client who comes in and says, just make me famous. Getting people on the news is pretty easy, but getting them on the news doesn't necessarily mean their phone blows up the next day or their servers crash and they get a million calls. So we had to come up with other strategies to increase the ROI. So among our strategies is video. We have 2.5 videographer editors that make videos for our clients to help their website work better. We help with social media. We help with Speakers Bureau to get them booked in front of their prospective client. We have a web division with 3 people who develop new websites for our clients.
Oh wow! You go ahead and take a marketing approach to PR.
Yeah, we had to, because we do month-to-month agreements, which always leaves us at the mercy.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to trap somebody into a long contract. Just give me 1 month, and I better prove myself. Because if I don't do it well, I don't get a second month. I always tell my team we're 30 days away from getting fired, and I like that. It keeps us nervous and anxious and looking at the calendar, saying, when we send them this bill on the 1st, will they want to pay it or will they want to fire us? And I think that causes us to be excellent.
I love that. It's so important to have that level of excellence in there. I want to know, when working with you, do you do a multiple approach? I mean,
Absolutely.
So, because I would think that, but that surprises me that you do a month to month when you're capable of such a broad range.
Well, I think
of support.
when somebody, I don't know about you, but I've signed deals before, and I knew in the first 2 weeks I signed a bad deal. And I don't like it when I sign a bad deal, but then I'm trapped for a year.
I understand it, for sure, but how do you do this? That's a lot of strategy. You are putting some serious elbow grease into that.
Yeah, it is. We like to think that we're delivering, 4 or 5 times the value of what they're paying us, and I do it because I'm making it up in volume. I know what my fixed costs are. I know what my rent is. I know how much I pay my employees. I know what healthcare is. If I could just control my costs, there's no limit to how large we can grow. But I would not want to grow at the expense of excellence. The most common thing my employees hear every single day is, are the clients happy? Are the clients happy? And I think there's a lot of PR firms where is the check clearing? And that's not the way to run a business, in my opinion. What I want is clients standing on the roof of their house with a megaphone, shouting into it, why are you not using my PR guy? And that only happens if you're just blowing the cover up,
Yeah, that's
not going to cover
wild.
off the ground, off the ball.
No, I love that. I love that approach. And you can get them into magazines, and you can get them on radio and television. Do you have a geographical focus?
Most of our clients are in Dallas, but my experience is that a journalist is a journalist is a journalist. And when I call up a journalist, print, radio, or television, any place in the country, I begin with, my name is Jeff Crilley. I spent 25 years in news. Do you have time for a good story? And most of the time I'm talking to somebody who hadn't been in the business that long. Even at ABC News New York, I'm talking to somebody who's right out of college.
Yeah, that's some nice clout you got there.
Well, it helps.
Yeah.
It just suggests in that first 5 seconds, I walked more than a mile in your shoes. I know what you're going through. I'm not going to insult you by pitching you a story that's not really a story. And that's why I feel pressure, even today, when I pick up the phone to call a reporter, I better have my act together. Because I remember what that was like when I was the reporter and a PR person was pitching me. But they didn't really have their act together. They didn't know their pitch well. They didn't know the journalist well. And a journalist can eat you alive if you haven't done your homework. But even for the person watching this, they're a small business owner. Let's just say you make cupcakes. You have a designer cupcake company in Garland. It's a store, right? So you say to yourself, okay, who would care about designer cupcakes? I could start with the local paper. You could find out who's writing the Garland section of the Dallas Morning News and start with a local reporter. Or you could say, well, what if we did TV? If you were going to do TV, I would say you're looking at like a Good Morning Texas or a feature reporter. And then what are you going to tell them? You can't just say, hey, we make designer cupcakes, because a lot of people make designer cupcakes these days. There's several large companies that do it. So what's your defining difference? What are you doing that the other guys aren't doing? That's when you might have to become a little bit more creative. So I'll give you a freebie. Are you ready? When I was a TV news reporter, the Highland Park Celebrity Bakery used to do a donkey cookie and a elephant cookie every 4 years.
Oh, okay.
Well, it was Highland Park Village, so the donkey never won. It was always the elephant cookie that won. But I did the story every 4 years. So that small cupcake person could make a Clinton cupcake and a Trump cupcake and keep a running score of how many he or she is selling. And the media actually could become delighted with that story. It could, according to the Cupcake Index in Garland, Texas, you know, Hillary has a 2% lead or whatever.
Oh, that is hilarious. That's good. That's really good. Well, I'm really enjoying the information and I'm so tickled. I can't wait to read this book, Free Publicity. This is awesome. Jeff, how can our audience find you?
So our website is realnewspr.com. Our office is over at Lincoln Center, LBJ in the Tollway. And, you know, call us up, come by, meet the team. You're going to meet 15 millennials that love what they do. When Monday comes around, it's not, oh gosh, I got to go to work. It's cool. I get to help somebody tell their story again. And nothing, to me, is more satisfying than a client who comes back to you and says, thank you so much. Thank you for that piece that you did, that you got on us. Thank you for taking good care of my baby.
So would you like to give them a phone number?
Sure. They can call my personal cell, 214.
Ooh, that's bold.
Yeah, 214-226-3327.
And I'll have you repeat it one more time.
214-226-3327.
That's wonderful. Jeff, thank you so much for your time
Of
today. I thoroughly enjoyed that, learned a lot, and I imagine you did too, friends. Now remember, you're going to be able to find all of our lineup information, our replays, our magazine. You'll be able to download the app and get sponsor information, everything you need to know for you to have a successful life in business today at offbeatbusiness.com.
That's awesome.
Piece of
Thank you.